Taku the fan, and we got Justin Savakis the pro. And
Hey,
tonight's
everyone.
topic is bootlegs and piracy in general. And we're gonna cover the whole wide, from Blu-rays, DVDs to merchandise. So this is a topic Justin wanted to talk about because he's been to many cons all across the country, and this seems to be like a growing problem. So Justin, how can people spot a bootleg?
Well, it depends on what we're talking about. If we're talking about...
You're a little staticky, Justin. Just a little
how am
staticky.
I turned that off. I don't know how...
Forgive us.
All right, how's that?
Yeah, you're still a robot.
Still a robot. Hold on. Let me try turning it and then off. Okay, how's that?
Perfect.
Okay. Sorry, new show. We're still working out the kinks.
Technical difficulty.
So if we're talking about printed material, the easiest way to tell is the print quality. Now, if you look at a poster and everything's clean, the colors are vibrant, and they look how they should, and then you look at like little tiny text on it, or maybe at the bottom, like there's a copyright line or something, and it's all very clear and legible, that's probably legit. If there's if you're looking at that little copyright line or the little text at the bottom and it's really blurry or hard to make out, and you're looking at the colors and there's all this like patterning because it looks like someone scanned it, more patterns we call it, that's usually a giveaway that what you're looking at might not be legitimate.
You're getting a little fuzzy again.
I can't do anything. I'm out of controls. It's literally a checkbox. Let's see, can I... If you are having issues, try restarting your browser, then that ends the show. I can't do that.
Let's see if you sound like that on.
I'm talking anyway. So at any rate, with any sort of printed material that's available, also for the copyright line. A lot of merch doesn't even bother with the copyright line, and that is the mark of generally, that the Japanese signed off
Justin,
on.
it just got worse, and Mark is saying it sounds like it might be a cable not plugged in right all the way.
It's USB. Let me try switching to my my Bluetooth, because I'm using AirPods. How's that?
You're right. You sound good now.
Okay.
You sound a
Screw
little far away, but you don't sound. We're doing it live.
All right. So anyway.
Okay. So back to what you were saying. So if the colors are vibrant.
Yes, the colors are vibrant, and there's no more pattern on the colors, and you can read the small text, the copyright line, and it's not blurry. That's probably legit. If it is not, if it's blurry, if you see more pattern, also educate yourself what a color laser printer looks like. The output of a color laser printer has a very kind of distinctive look to the colors. Also, if it's being printed on regular, printer paper, there's a certain way that it sags. Like I saw some bootleg CDs of all things this last weekend at a convention, and literally the cover would sag in the tray and it would kind of fall away. There's other giveaways too. Like I saw one. I literally saw a soundtrack for Robot Carnival of all things. I'm like, who's buying this? And then I came back later and it was gone.
So someone out there is buying those.
Someone bought the bootleg of Robot Carnival and it misspelled Joe Hisaishi's name.
How'd they spell it?
Joe Hisaichi, CHI. What do you do?
Logan says, can confirm I was with Justin and they looked terrible.
Yeah. Now, smaller cons are awash with this stuff. Not just the bootleg CDs. In fact, I was surprised to find the bootleg CDs, but lots of bootleg posters, lots of fan art t-shirts and posters that, okay, maybe a fan drew them, but you can't tell the difference between
fan art and the actual, official key art. And so in that case, if it's for profit, it's a bootleg. T-shirt tables, just huge, just filled with copyrighted characters, and fans are kind of none the wiser that they're not legit, probably. It was really kind of frustrating to see. Now, I had a long conversation with the con chair of the con I was at this last weekend. I'm not going to name them because I shamed them on Twitter, and that was bothersome enough for them. But they have a problem, and it's kind of the same problem that Amazon claims when people sell bootlegs on Amazon and eBay, for that matter, which is they don't have the manpower to literally check every piece of merch that dealers bring in. They can respond if somebody complains, and when they complain, the staff will go up to them, take a look for themselves, and if they think that it's credible, then they'll tell the dealer to take down the bootleg stuff, and they'll keep an eye out, and if it comes back, they kick the dealer out, which is, you could argue that's not as harsh as it should be, and they could argue that the onus should be on the convention to actually, police things, because honestly, if I'm a young fan and I'm going to, I'm all excited, I'm going to a convention maybe for the first time, and I see this dealer room filled to the brim with anime stuff, I don't know that it's bootleg. In fact, I'm probably assuming that it's fine, it's legit. So I do think, frankly, that conventions do have a responsibility to at least try to make sure that their dealer room is filled with legitimate product. But honestly, a lot of it is hard to tell, and the people running those shows aren't always super educated on like print quality and whether or not to look for a copyright line, or some of them even you remember SM CDs? It was a bootleg Taiwanese record label that just pirated anime soundtracks.
No.
Okay, that they were huge in the late 90s, early 2000s. That they're gone now. There was another one called Ever Anime that was everywhere. And they're all gone now because no one buys CDs anymore. But it was a really nice, like, you just remembered the brand, and you're like, okay, that's a bootleg. Put that over here. Don't sell those. But now that a lot of stuff, like, you're looking at My Hero Academia keychains with really nice print quality, because it's just really easy to make those now. It's really hard for conventions to tell the difference. And really the only thing I can tell them is look for the copyright line. That's all I can say.
So I want to know, what's the fine line? And I have a piece of clothing here that I think is a fine line between straight up bootleg and fan art. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, I'm not going to name the artist because I don't want to shame them. They do. This is actually this is the highest quality hoodie I have, okay. But it's got 02 from Darling in the Franxx.
Okay.
Or not her exactly, but someone that looks strikingly similar to her. Obviously, given the middle finger right there. Now, would you say that this is a bootleg? Like, is this piracy or is this fan art?
I mean, you can't call it 100% piracy if she drew it.
Yeah,
but at the same time,
she's like wearing the normal suit in the show. There's some things different with the face, but she's got the horns and she's got the eyes. And by the way, Darling in the Franxx is a trash anime. I just think I just think she's hot. So
okay, well, here's my take on it, and everyone's level of comfort is going to be different. All fan art merchandise is illegal, period. That is just true. It is copyrighted characters. You are not allowed to take a drawing you made of copyrighted characters and sell it. If you do that with a Disney character, Disney will absolutely come down on your ass for it, and they will be legally in the right. That said, my personal line is, if the merchandise that you're making, you're making a profit on it because it's not your characters, but we can't know that as consumers. B, if the product can be confused by someone as something legit. Now, in my case, I'm not overly familiar with Frank's because I was warned away from watching that show before before I could actually ever
It's
get to it.
it is awful,
Exactly.
but she's really hot. Gotta emphasize that. It's the first anime girl that's ever made me go hmm. So
Really, the first.
actually, honestly, out of all the anime I've watched, she is the first one because I've always been like, ooh, waifus. It's the first one. There's a scene where she jumps out of the water and catches a fish with her mouth. I was a changed man ever since.
That's if that's what turns you on, man. So, at any rate, if it can be confused with something that's legit, and I think, frankly, that shirt probably could be confused as legit if someone doesn't have isn't a huge study of what that key art exactly should look like. I think that would be, I would not be comfortable with that. And if is that a Funimation show? I forget.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, if you had that at the dealer room and Funimation's lawyer came by, they would absolutely seize that, in my opinion.
They would.
Yeah, I think so. And that's the thing. If a lawyer is acting as an agent of the rights holder, be it the U.S. publisher or the Japanese producer, you can absolutely come by and make a legal claim that this is my copyrighted product. I am seizing it. And that happens every Anime Expo. Every Anime Expo, Funimation's lawyer goes around and seizes a bunch of bootleg product that some people can, claim the fan art exemption. But honestly, whether you drew it or not, it almost doesn't matter past a certain point, especially if you're profiting. And if you're an artist alley, not an artist alley, you're in the dealer room, you're probably there to make money. Come on.
So how do sites like Etsy and Redbubble stay up? Because most of that is like you can go to any of those, type in Gundam, for instance, and just buy a shirt that's not officially licensed.
It's the same way you can still buy bootleg stuff on eBay and on Amazon. It's a matter of those sites are they're very hard to police from the outside, and those companies just don't care. Maybe they care a little bit, but they're not making a concerted attempt to go through things and actually try to, cull any of the bootleg product on their own. They're waiting for people to come and file a DMCA notice. So it's probably not going to happen. The only companies, and notice you're not finding much Disney product on those sites.
No, nope.
And the reason for that is
big pocketbook.
Disney's lawyers have gone proactively to a lot of these companies and put the fear of God into them. Frankly, if I'm not sure how big a problem that anime producers find this to be. Not every show is worth making licensing product for in the US and Canada. So they might kind of turn a blind eye to it until it's a actual problem encroaching on their business. But honestly, I think people are just making too much money right now. The economy is good. The streaming business is booming. I think once the economy crashes, and it will eventually, once the economy crashes and companies are starting to look around for money, other media companies, whether Japanese or American, are going to come around with some lawyers and start looking for other means of revenue, if you get my drift.
Yeah. And which leads me into another question, which one is a gray area when it comes to illegal, bootlegs, or is the whole idea of groups of people subbing shows that aren't legally available in English. I mean, Logan and I can attest to this, that we're both Kamen Rider
fansubs.
But yeah, fansubs. But sadly, the only way to consume Kamen Rider minus 2 DVD sets, Kamen Rider V3 and one of the films, is through illegal means. So as a fan of these things, I think it's kind of crappy that I can't legally purchase, Kamen Rider DVDs, but it's probably not, viable for companies to be putting stuff like that out.
Okay. So legally, okay, first of all, I should say this, I'm not a lawyer. and this should not be considered legal advice. However, there is no gray area. It's all illegal. That said, probably doesn't matter. Copyright's one of those things where unless someone is actively enforcing it, i.e. the owner of the copyright, it's a free-for-all. And Japanese companies for many, many years were very reluctant to get into the legal system and start suing people or sending cease and desist letters because they just kind of didn't want to open that can of worms. That said, look, I'm a former fansubber. When I was in high school, I was part of a very, very big anime group called Kodocha Anime. You can probably guess where the name came from. But that was the VHS era, and you could only copy a tape so many times before it wore out, and a copy would look worse of the copy and there was a limit to how many copies that could be made. And to this day, I'm shocked when I find new people that used to get our tapes.
Has that has your involvement in that ever came back to bite you in the ass later on?
No,
no.
Because there's a lot of us. I would venture to guess that a good 60 to 70% of translators working professionally in anime and manga got their start in fansubs or scanlations.
And you guys recently worked with a fan sub group, Mega Beast Empire Subs, on Juspian.
Right, yeah. For Discotek's release of Juspian, I wasn't personally involved in getting those, but there were existing subtitle scripts, and that's not the first time that's happened either. There have been several fan subbers who've gone legit, and several people who've made their work professionally available after it was released through illicit means. This isn't an all or nothing thing. People can be many things, and my personal level of comfort with copying something illegally when I can't get it legally, it's going to be different for everybody. I am personally okay with copying something if it's not legally available through any means at all. I will import stuff. I will import stuff from Europe if necessary. I will import raw stuff from Japan. But if none of that's available, I personally don't have an issue with torrenting something of like an obscure 1986 OVA that 500 people have seen in the world. No one's ever going to license that. No one's ever going to reprint it. It's quite probable no one even knows who the rights are. And if no one does it, there's actually a chance that it could be lost to time. However, if some crazy company were to come along and remaster it and put out a new disc, I can't really say. I would absolutely buy that, and probably delete my copy if I felt comfortable with the new version. I think you have to support what you like and what you collect if you're given the chance. And to a certain extent, piracy, as I think it was the Linus Torvalds, the guy who created Linux. No, was it him? It wasn't him. It was the guy who created Steam.
Why can't I think of his name? I'm a huge.
You know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
One of those guys, anyway, famously said that piracy is very often a distribution issue. When in the late aughts, in like 2008, 2009, when fansubs really and BitTorrent really threatened to completely demolish the American anime business, that was a distribution issue. It was because fans wanted what was coming out in Japan at the time, and it was taken 8 or 9 months to 2 years for an American company to come out with it, and that just was too long in the internet age. And there was also no way to watch a show for the most part without having to buy it, and that was a huge problem because most shows end up sucking in the end. So Gabe Newell, yes, thank you.
Gabe Newell, yes. I don't know why Gaben, Lord Gaben, all those memes. I don't know why I could not think of his name.
Yeah. So yeah, at any rate, I think there will always be a certain amount of illicit distribution of any sort of media. There will always be a certain chunk of the population that wants to be in on a conversation about it that either can't get it legally in their country or can't afford it because they're young and broke, or old and broke, as the case may be. But I think if you have the means, you have a moral obligation to support it. That's it to me.
I have someone has a question, Caribou Coon. I think you touched on this a bit, but there's a fan sub, and for some reason it gets picked up. Do they still have to retranslate all of it, or can they at least cite from the fan sub?
Legally, they could probably get away with just copying the fan sub scripts, but you don't want to for a few reasons, at least without permission from the fan subber. But often fan subs are made without access to the original Japanese scripts, and they can and very often do completely mishear things, or interpret something the wrong way, because Japanese, the way certain things sound and the way they're written in kanji can mean something completely different. It gets to be a mess. That's a huge problem with song lyrics, by the way. So you really want to have someone that you trust. Also, you don't know a lot of times how good the Japanese translator is that did the fan sub. So you really want to have, it's usually better just to start over. And also, if you're caught copying from a fan sub, and there have been certain professional translators who have been caught copying from fan subs, and the fans did notice, and that there were repercussions. That people don't like that. Whether legitimate or not, a lot of fan subbers and their fans have a sense of ownership towards their work, and if you just take it, it might be legally in the right, but a lot of people are going to disagree with you, and you're gonna eat it fan wise.
So before I got a region-free Blu-ray player, which I think is pretty essential if you're a fan of anime, and before I had a region-free Blu-ray player, and before I met Logan, who was helping me out with some stuff, if it wasn't readily available to me in English, I had no problems acquiring the bootlegs, but I would still show support in some way. So I'm a huge Toku fan. So if I'm watching like Gavan or something, I went out and purchased a couple action figures of those characters to show some support. I've never bought Blu-ray bootlegs, but there is a company, I'm not going to name who it is, but they have.
Oh yeah, they're all over eBay, aren't they?
There's one on eBay who's actually like, their bootlegs are actually very high quality. They did like a soft sponsor. They're like, hey, if you don't want to advertise that you got these from me, that you're whatever, but if someone asks, hey, where do you get those, you could send them a link. So they've sent me Macross, every part of Macross that's out, Neon Genesis with the original dub on there, and Professor Who's Comet fan subs are possibly relevant again due to Netflix's release strategy for anime. They changed some stuff in Neon Genesis that I feel like take away from the show, and it's not the same show anymore. It's a whole new cast. So the show that I first listened to and first had my first go at Neon Genesis isn't the same anymore. It's not the same for the 16, 17-year-old who just watched it for the first time. So from like a preservation standpoint, yeah. But now
that dub is terrible. That is a terrible dub. I'm sorry. Bad. I know people have an emotional connection to it.
The new one?
No, the old one. The old one is horrendous. It is like,
you're offending me.
Hey, it's our first episode. This is gonna keep happening. That is it's like, it is like I know people are very proud of their work in it, and it would not pass even the smallest bit of scrutiny. And even Matt Greenfield, who directed it, has admitted they were dubbing it as they were getting new episodes in and didn't know where it was going, and would have done things very differently had they did know where it was going. And a lot of the subtlety is lost. A lot of it's just the emotions that are supposed to be subtle are cranked up to 11, and like the actors are really hamming it up. It's not a good job. I'm sorry. Anyway, I'm out of that. I'm done.
but now that I have a region-free Blu-ray player, and now I know some things, I'm importing a lot more than what I used to. I'm like, Panzer World Galleon is probably one of my favorite imports in my collection of mecha shows. It's an old Sunrise anime, and Italy has a bunch of old, like Zambot is licensed in that country, which I can understand. I can understand enough Italian that I can watch Zambot and have a good time. So I think not a lot of people know the means of how to legally acquire stuff and enjoy it legally.
It's hard, and the not legal option is usually the easier one, which is a problem, and that's solving that problem. The onus is on industry to do that. I have a problem less with like stuff floating around for free on Mega Upload or is Mega Upload still a thing? Mega or whatever Mega Upload is now. Yeah. There's some iteration that's still called Mega that people still use, but I have not a whole lot of problem with that. I do have a problem with illegal streaming sites. I have a huge problem with physical bootlegs because people are making money, and that's really what galls me, is because it's something that they don't own. So and they're taking it, and a lot of people who are buying from them, they're taking money that should rightfully go to the creators. And that's what I have a problem with.
And then I want to talk about how do you feel about people in countries where this stuff just isn't available? Like my friend Zach from Uchu Shelf, he did a video calling out an app called Manga Rock, where they were like literally Viz's official manga app. They were taking the pages and everything and still crediting the official translators. But they were putting it up on their app for free. On Viz's app, they were behind a paywall. There's like, I think it's a couple bucks a month. It's like $2 or $3. It's super cheap. And they're putting it up. So my friend Zach makes this video. 4chan tears into him. They make their app not available to download, but if you had it on your phone or on your computer, you could still access their content. And now they're gone. They put out a press conference calling out Crunchyroll and being like, we kind of want to transition into what Crunchyroll did.
Yeah, you know what? Everyone, all the bootleg sites say that. The time to become a Crunchyroll is over. That was a once in a lifetime thing that they happened to get venture capital and knew what they were doing from a business perspective and started to legitimize themselves at exactly the right time. When you're directly competing with legal options, which are now fully sussed out and everyone has a means to legally distribute things, it's not happening. It's just not. It's over. That is never happening again.
So as of right now, this site Manga Rock is down, for lack of a better word.
It's over. Yeah,
it's over. Which they've said this twice, and then they keep coming back. Like the first time that they shut down, they came back behind a Patreon paywall. You'd have to subscribe to their Patreon, give them money to access all this manga. But the main complaint,
I'm sure Patreon shut that shit down as soon as they find out.
Yes, and then the main complaint that my friend Zach got was because he made a website called how to read manga or where to read manga, and it told you exactly where to go legally for free and legally behind a paywall to read everything online. But his main complaint that he got was it's not available in my country. So what do you say to like that? Someone in the middle of bumfuck nowhere, they don't have access to a bookstore or a Best Buy or something like that. How do they?
Okay, so first of all, if you're in North America, you don't really have any excuses.
Nope.
because even if it's not available in a store near you, everything is available online. Oftentimes you don't even have to buy anything. It's like a nominal, like, couple bucks a month, and you can have more than you can ever possibly consume. And you know, if not, everyone in most third world countries has a VPN. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't, but it usually works. There's usually a way if you really care. That said, the pricing is, and there are certain parts of the world where certain things are just out of reach, and you know, it does suck. And I don't blame someone for taking matters in their own hands, but there are ways of doing it without without being a dealer. Somebody has to be a dealer. There are ways of people getting those things without a dealer, and I know because we used to do that before we had decent distribution in this country. You know, fansubs, whether you like them or hate them, there is a way for fansubs to exist where no one's making a profit or causing damage if the show is not available. But if someone's acting as a dealer and making money, that person is not in the right, and that person, in my opinion, is subject to the full extent of the law.
So I have another. So as you can see, I'm a huge manga fan, and that's mostly what my YouTube channel is all manga.
I've noticed.
Yeah. So there's a series that I really like called Kingdom. It's not available to buy physically or digitally here in any.
Is that the same Kingdom that there was an anime of a few years ago?
The anime is hit or miss, but the manga is literally, I would put it on my top 5 of all time. It's phenomenal.
Wow.
So there's a group of people.
Wow, no one brought that out?
No one's. Well, it's 50 something volumes of a subject that is not very, like, I don't think it could sell well here in America.
Gotcha.
It's actually, on my channel, we actually had a nice deep talk about going into the future. None of these, like, I don't want to use the word manga tuber, but my friends and I don't think companies are going to be licensing long running series anymore, because with each volume, the sales are going to go down.
Sales drop off. It's true.
I think the only one that is going to be that's going to get finished is probably One Piece, and by finish I mean Viz is going to continuously put out each volume. But you're looking at things like Attack on Titan's probably going to finish here soon. Haikyuu's probably going to end soon. But so Kingdom has never been licensed, and there's a group on the internet. I'm not going to name them. They actually take the fan translations, and they put them on a website called Blurb. It's a Canada website. You can, like, publish your own books. You don't make a profit at all. You don't turn a profit whatsoever, but you are able to physically have a physical copy of that book. How do you feel about that? Because really money's not touching anyone's hand.
Honestly, that's something I would probably do if I cared enough.
That's what I've done.
I gotta be honest. I'd have to really like that manga, but I've done stupider things for love of anime and manga. That said, if it does ever come out legally in a format that you can understand, I think you do have a moral responsibility to buy it.
Yeah. Like, for instance,
but until that day comes,
until that day comes, like, so for instance, for me, I'm a huge Ultraman fan, and for years I had a handful of bootlegs, but the moment Mill Creek announced, hey, we're putting them all out on Blu-ray, I threw all my bootlegs away in the trash, didn't even give them out, and now I have all five Blu-rays that are out so far, and I have the 2 coming out in February pre-ordered.
Great.
I think you got to stick to your guns, and you got to support what you really love. And I mean, obviously, I buy every discotheque release you guys put out, even if it's something that I don't.
We've been over this.
I mean, like, this is a whole shelf dedicated right here to nothing but Mecha and Toku. There's some Gotcha Man down there and a few non-mecha or toku shows, but
you are definitely someone who puts their money where your mouth is.
yeah,
You know,
too much.
The funny thing is, like, there are fans that will tie themselves into knots trying to justify not paying for something, and you know, most of it's kind of thinly veiled excuses, and they really don't like being called out on their bullshit. But if you have the means to pay for something that you consumed and you consumed it, and you're making all sorts of excuses why you shouldn't have to pay for it, I'm not taking that person seriously, you know.
And then we have a question that ties in from this on Facebook from a group I'm in from Geo, who is a week in geekdom on YouTube. He says, "How does a company like Discotech go into 2020 trying to combat bootlegs and piracy?" Which I think you guys are a very unique position because you guys aren't Funimation, you guys aren't Aniplex. You guys are licensing more niche titles, and I feel like your guys' fan base is a little bit more dedicated and a little bit more.
Yeah, but it's also a lot smaller.
Yeah, you guys are also very small. Like, you know, I don't know if you want to say this on air, but you said last time on a podcast, a title is lucky to sell X amount of copies, which kind of took me by surprise.
1,000, yeah.
1,000.
Well, there are definitely discs that we bring out that are lucky to sell 1,000, yeah. Look, I'll be completely honest. As far as I'm concerned, Discotech doesn't really do anything to address piracy on any level. They might at some point, but right now, you know, it's just too small of a company. They don't have the manpower for that. And you can definitely tell because there are still illicit copies of shows that we have licensed. I'm not Discotech. That Discotech has licensed on YouTube, you know, that are not legal uploads, and we haven't done anything about it.
Why not? Is there like a reason behind that? Like, do you think maybe, like, are you guys thinking maybe someone will watch that and be like, I would own that?
No, because we have partners, like, you know, Anime Crush, and who puts it up on Amazon, and they put up clips on YouTube, and they also put them up on Tubi and a few other places. It doesn't hurt that much because, you know, if people want to see it on a blurry, crappy copy in the wrong aspect ratio on YouTube, and then they decide they want to buy it, that's great, I guess.
I feel like with you guys, like when you guys licensed Juspian and Message from Space, the whole Toku community was like, "Fuck yeah!" Like we have to buy that. We have to rally behind that.
That's the sort of thing. That's the sort of thing. I feel like if you make fans want to support you, then that's the ideal. And we're really lucky that we have a lot of fans that do support our work. What drives me up a wall is like that guy on eBay selling Blu-rays of, you know, patched Japanese Blu-rays with subtitles added or English dub added of something that we have already licensed and we haven't told anyone yet because it's not ready.
How do you? So do you guys like shoot them a message like, "Hey, by the way, this is..."
No. Well, I mean, what's the point really? Because chances are they're going to dig in their heels and, you know, be kind of a dick about it. Because they know what they're doing is not ethically right. And so they're just going to, it'll be a fight, and we'll waste a whole bunch of time that we could better spend making discs and getting discs out properly. You know, that's a problem. If I were still running a legal streaming site like Crunchyroll or Funimation, I would be really losing my mind at all the bootleg streaming sites, and to this day I don't understand why so many people use them, because their quality is terrible, and like you click in the wrong place and it completely redirects you to some horrible spammy, you know, ad site with a bunch of pop-ups. It's like, why are you using this? This is clearly horrible.
Honestly,
but
I mean,
people do. But people do.
Only bootleg sites I watch is for Kamen Rider. You know, I'm keeping up every week with, you know, Kamen Rider 01. And I only watch it on my phone, like while I'm at the gym or something. So the quality isn't that bad on a cell phone screen, but
Yeah,
but coming home, I do like to lay down, grab a Blu-ray, pop it in, sit on the couch.
sure. I mean, it's tough. It's tough for everyone to make a living. I get it. Having a tough time isn't really an excuse to do the wrong thing, in my opinion. And I don't mind, certainly we all have our various levels of things we're comfortable doing, but you have to. I'm always going to be on the side of supporting the
The
people that
artists.
that do this for a living, because without that, that doesn't exist anymore.
Yep.
We went a good, as evidence, we went a good 3 years with almost no new dubs being produced because because the lack of legal streaming options allowed fan subs to get completely out of control. Um, and we lost half of our publishers in the States. That was only 10 years ago.
Which is kind of crazy to
And
think about how like 10 years is a long time, but it feels like yesterday that Gideon was still putting stuff out and
I know.
ADV and all that stuff. And
Well, it feels
anim-
like yesterday because we're putting out all their stuff again.
and then Anime Works is still around, like still like they put out Phoenix
Sorta,
this
yeah.
last year, just like weird. But yeah, I mean, I am a small business owner, and it would
Yep.
suck if someone came and got our fucking sauce recipe or our dough recipe and copied it exactly, and then opened up a restaurant right next door and sold
Yeah.
it for cheaper. That would be that would suck. So
Now, that would be
that's
legal,
that would be pretty legal because it's
but
actually
only because you can't copyright a recipe.
yeah, you can't. You can try, but that's why a lot of companies hold their recipes very private, is because once the cat's out of the bag, you can just run hog wild with it. But
Sure.
but I do believe in supporting companies. I mean, I have 5 shelves filled to the brim with manga and DVDs and Blu-rays. But at the same time, I do personally like having all of Macross on Blu-ray. Like I do like having the bootlegs right there. I can just grab it and put
Look,
it in.
I
and enjoy it.
mean, I'll be perfectly honest. I've imported both Macross Plus and Evangelion Blu-ray and added my own subtitles to it.
See,
And
that's what I'm doing. That's what I started doing because of Logan. So shout out to Logan.
Yeah, it's actually not that hard to do yourself.
Nope.
But and I have no trouble doing that because I bought the discs, and so I'm legally entitled to do whatever I want with them as long as I'm not selling copies or whatever.
And that's what I've started the transition into doing from just accepting bootlegs. Now, I mean, actually, the people emailed me and said, "Hey, are you interested in this?" And I was like, "No, I actually am in the process of buying Thunderbolt Fantasy."
I personally also have no copy or no problem with people ripping a Blu-ray because they want it on their Plex server or something.
Yep.
That makes total sense to me. I would do that myself if it was not a huge amount of work that I could be putting into actual things that make me money.
It's just I feel like because of the boom, like was piracy always this bad, or has it gotten worse?
Oh, yeah.
Has it gotten worse?
No, well, it's hard to measure because anime fandom has grown so much. But anime fandom in North America has always been about piracy because there's always been some reason that you couldn't get X. You can use back in the late 80s, early 90s, we were watching fan subs. They were just so blurry and so many generations copied from VHS tape to VHS tape, you could barely make out the text anymore. There were, the speed subs back then were so bad. It was like, watching something that was translated with Google Translate. It was rough. What's changed, I think, is not the level of piracy. That's had its ebbs and flows, and we probably reached a crescendo in the late aughts and early teens that has since subsided. But the quality of the piracy is what concerns me because as things get easier to make on your own, as 3D printers get better, are we going to reach a point where you can 3D print your own figures? We're pretty much there now.
I mean, people
But-
who build Gunpla like at a pro level, they 3D print extra parts to add on to their thing already. So I mean, we're almost there.
But the technology isn't ubiquitous and it's not cheap. Once we get to the point where what happens when we get to the point where people can print their own Funko Pops?
Well, I think they should. Funko Pop suck.
Okay, well that's fair. But yeah, if you're gonna pirate something better than Funko Pops, please.
Yeah, SH Figure Arts or
yeah, no, don't do that. Don't pirate anything. I just want people to support the business because I've seen what happens when people don't support the business, and things are really good for the anime business right now, and that's great. But it wasn't always like that, and it's going to not always be like that. There will be a down spiral again. This big streaming boom right now, that's going to end, and shit's going to hit the fan because it's absolutely a bubble. And the amount of anime being made will probably halve at some point. There have been layoffs in the last month at the streaming companies that we all know. I'm not going to say who, but people are getting laid off currently. So it's not something you can always just take for granted that these companies will always be there, because they're not going to be.
There are just so many streaming sites just to consume anime. I mean, you got High Dive, which my personal favorite, a little biased, Crunchyroll, Funimation, Netflix, and Amazon. So you got all those just to watch everything that's currently ongoing or previous seasons.
Tubi, don't forget Tubi. They have a bunch of old stuff.
Do they really?
Tubi TV. Yep. Okay. They actually have a surprising. They have a few exclusives.
I'm gonna have to check that out. Like anything up my alley?
I'm sure, I don't remember off the top of my head any names, but they definitely have some. They're also a second place to watch some stuff from Asian Crush.
Well, shout out to Asian Crush as well. Really awesome. Really awesome.
I love those guys. Did you know that I used to work for the guys that started it, because they used to run a company that I worked for years ago called Imagination.
No.
Yeah. Yep. We're all from the same source material.
It seems like not like I'm not like in the industry, but I know a lot of you guys, and I'll just like when I was trying to get people on the show to interview, it seemed like every one of you guys knew each other, like all. Well,
the joke for many years, because you have to have a screw loose to work in the business.
Asian Crush is actually in the chats.
Hey,
hi, how are you?
You have to have a screw loose to work in the business, and if you have that screw loose, you're probably going to be a lifer. Seems like the joke for many years has been, if you're the only thing more incestuous than anime is the industry.
It sounds like kind of like the restaurant business. You have to be a fucking nut job. You have to be a little. Yep. You got to be a little weird. You got to be on something. Caffeine for me, but a lot of people are on other stuff. And everyone knows each other.
And most people are broke.
Yeah, I mean, I'm broke because of this shit, but
well, anime. I'm lucky in that I figured out how to make a pretty good living doing this, but most of the companies that hire otaku specifically because they're anime fans.
Ooh.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Justin.
I'm back. I don't know what happened there.
We're having a little bit of technical difficulties. You are frozen.
I am frozen. Can you hear me though?
You're very in and out. You sound very in and out.
Well,
first show technical difficulties. This was going to happen. It's okay.
It was.
This is pilot episode number 2. There you go. You're back. Look at that, beautiful man.
Okay.
So, do you want to answer some fun questions for the remaining 10 minutes?
Sure, let's do it.
All right. First one from David. He says, chunky or smooth peanut butter?
Smooth.
Yeah, me too. I don't like. One, I don't like peanut butter. So,
You don't like peanut butter?
I don't like Reese's Cups. I don't like. Nah, dude. I'm all right. Now, second question. Is Flip as annoying about Mecha and Toku with you as he is the rest of us, meaning my friends from YouTube?
I don't know what the hell you're talking about. He is absolutely a gentleman all the time. I would never say anything about,
This one's for Justin. What was your favorite project to work on in 2019?
2019. Probably City Hunter.
Really?
I'm a huge City Hunter fan, and I'm really, really stoked that we're getting to release it because I love that show. And the opening to the second series, which we haven't gotten to yet, Angel Heart, I think it's Angel Voice, something like that. It's one of my favorite J-pop songs ever, and they use it as the opening in the new movie, and it just immediately it's like, oh, it's back. I love it. It hasn't aged well, and in the age of Me Too, it's a little cringy, I'll admit, but it's not real.
And then this is for you as well. What
Okay.
changes would you like to see in the anime industry?
That's a very broad question.
That's a super broad question.
We could probably do a whole episode on that. But I'd like everyone to get paid enough to eat. That would be nice.
Yeah, that's a very honorable answer.
Yeah.
Flip, what was your favorite discotheque release of 2019?
Gee, I wonder.
I don't know. It's a show that my wife will not let me watch while she's awake anymore, because I have actually watched it. I think 8 times now. Juspian. Justin's heard me talk about this a little too much, but yeah, Juspian, and then probably right next to it. Was God Mars last year or 2018?
I don't remember. I think it might have been late 2018.
But I'm gonna say God Mars. I really like it.
I finish these discs like 3 to 5 months before they actually come out, so I kind of lose track.
So everything's a blur to you?
Oh, I do 6 to 7 discs a month. Of course, it's going to be
actually
blur, right?
Beyblade. I actually watched fucking Beyblade. I loved it, dude. Actually, my
Beyblade.
I loved it so much that for Christmas, my wife bought me a Beyblade arena and actual Beyblades. And sometimes we battle after work. I let it rip.
Well, I'm happy that I made something that makes you happy.
It makes me really. It does, everything you make doesn't make my wife happy though. She's just like, really?
Oh, I know.
Really?
If we ever meet, she'll probably punch me.
No, she's too sweet. She's too timid. She actually she caught part of Cobra and she didn't understand that it was in 4K, and she was like, "This looks really cool." And I was like, "It's in 4K," and she's like, "Wow." So
okay, no, that last year, holy shit, being able to do Cobra. I mean, that was actually really, really hard because that was my first 4K disc, and there's not a whole lot of people you can ask for advice on how to make a 4K Blu-ray, and I don't really know any of them, except obviously for the people at the company that makes my Blu-ray software, but I can't just keep bugging them about stuff. And encoding is very hard. It takes about a week to encode a feature, and that's on my 32 core Threadripper machine. It takes a week.
I think when we first talked the very first time, you were actively doing that? Like you were in the middle of like the process of doing that, or you just
Oh
finished?
yeah, well we announced Cagliostro. We don't know when that's going to come out yet. We have a meeting this week to figure it out with TMS. But I did all the encoding for it already, and yeah, that thank God I know how to do it now because I had to redo Cobra like 4 times, and that was literally a whole month of encoding time.
So you said a week. Like how far into it did you have to go? Oh fuck, I have to restart. Like
Oh well, a few times at midway, but there was at least 2 full passes that I finished and went, oh shit.
oh man, that's gotta be rough. That's gotta be
It was rough.
really, really rough. You guys can ask questions in the chat as well. We got one from KazLab. You still enjoying that Nintendo Switch, Justin?
Not as much as I'd like. It's right here, actually.
What do you play?
But I nothing these days. What I hold on. I just right now I'm actually doing. They put Kirby for NES on the virtual store.
You
So
might want to turn that down because we might get striked on
yeah.
YouTube. YouTube is very finicky when it comes to that stuff.
I just downloaded Roombo. Have you played that? Do you know about it?
Are you just playing it for the retro games?
No, I have. Well, is Cuphead retro?
No, I mean that came out 2017.
Yeah. Well, it just came out for Switch.
It's great. That game is fantastic.
Yeah. Let's see, Untitled Goose Game, Kirby Star Allies, Donkey Kong. I actually have a lot of software in here, but about half of it's. I don't play this anywhere near as much as I buy stuff on it. I really should be playing more, but there's so much. I want to be reading more. I want to be playing more Switch. I want to watch more stuff. I still haven't seen all the Oscar movies.
Yeah. Speaking of movies. Oh wait, I would recommend you one Switch game, and to be very on brand, I'm going to recommend Daemon X Machina. It's a mech game. A lot of
I think I have the demo version. It's pretty good.
Really good. Really like it. I love Armored Core, and a lot of the guys who worked on Daemon X Machina. But speaking of movies, I watched The Lighthouse, which might be in my top 5 favorite films of all time.
Wow.
I wasn't expecting. It's long too.
Yeah, it's a long set.
It has everything from Robert Pattinson cranking it to a mermaid, to actual mermaid sex, to William Dafoe coming. Like there's a lot of farts. Farts are in there too.
A lot of farts.
Beautifully shot. Like some of the just scenes are just gorgeous. The tension is throughout the whole film, and then that foghorn that you keep hearing throughout the film is so brooding.
It's a really, really well made film. I didn't enjoy it as much as you did, just because I wasn't really enjoying myself. But
I can see that.
Yeah, it's but I really respected the hell out of it. I just don't think I could watch it again.
Are you fond of me, lobster, Justin?
It's so unpleasant. It is so unpleasant. Somebody brought up Parasite, which was epic. I love.
I still haven't seen that. When's that coming out?
Pretty on Blu-ray pretty soon. Like within the next month or two, I think.
Because I missed the only chance to see that in theaters here, and I was same with Lighthouse, and I was really pretty upset.
You know what I was really shocked how much I liked was
Cats.
Little Women. No, not Cats. I still can't believe I saw that. It was a rowdy screening. They had it playing at Alamo Drafthouse, and I was like, yes, rowdy screening. People were making fun of it. No, people were there enjoying it. It was like a normal screening. It wasn't anywhere near rowdy enough to make that movie fun.
Well, whenever you texted me, because you texted me and you said, I'm seeing Cats, a rowdy screening, and you put parentheses around rowdy, I was like, are you going to like a furry convention to watch this? Like, what is happening?
Well, I was hoping it would be like, have you ever gone to an anime convention with hentai night?
No.
Okay, so I'm not even sure they do this anymore because the venues complain too much. But back in the day, they would fill like 500-person auditoriums, and everyone would like scream and hoot and holler as they would put on some ridiculous hentai, usually comedy themed hentai. But and people would be super rowdy. They'd be shouting, they'd be screaming, they'd be taking little hotel bottles of conditioner, warming them up to body temperature and just squirting in people. That was a problem. People got kicked out for that. But it was a party. It was raucous. It was fun as hell. It was very entertaining. But you go to see Cats, and Cats is just really, really boring.
I have a question. How is the BO at hentai night?
Well, that's the thing. I think actual people who are obsessed with hentai would find it offensive because we're making fun of it.
Are there people out there that are like pinkies up, like I'm a hentai connoisseur, like I know what I'm talking about?
You can never really detect the full level of irony when people say things like that, I do know that, back in my Central Park Media days, when I was literally selling DVDs and VHS copies of hentai, I would sell every person that you could think of that was over 18 would buy hentai. I sold them to women in their mid-20s. I sent them to people that, were punk. I sold one to this middle-aged guy once that came up to the booth. He seriously looked like a Bible salesman. And he started looking through it, and I'm just like, oh God, am I going to have to make some sort of moral case now for this shit? And he looks at me and he goes, people ask me what kind of pornography I like. I like the anthropomorphic pornography. And he just turned and walked away.
I've never, honest to God, never been aroused by a hentai, so I think it's a little weird.
Most hentai isn't made for gay people, so
but we don't kink shame here on Fanverse Pro, so if that's your thing,
no, we don't.
Unless you like lollies, and then I'm gonna kink shame you.
Not gonna get into that.
Well, Justin, it's been over an hour. Do you want to go and wrap it up?
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
So, guys,
after we cut out all the dead air, it'll probably be exactly an hour.
So, thank you so much to literally everyone for watching. We had a total of 30 people coming in watching at one point. So, thank you. Episode 2, we are going to have the technical difficulties aligned. And Justin, thanks so much. We'll be back next Monday at 9 p.m.
See you guys next time.
See you guys.
Take care.